I'm always a believer that whoever's around me should be able to lift me up, gas me up, but cuss me out. If I made money on Monday, lost it on Tuesday, I can still come back and make money on Wednesday without losing my values. One of the things I realize is that some people want you to be the person that you were in the first year of university. All giving, all there, just, oh yeah, I can go to, I know he's gonna sort him out, go check him out, everything's Chris. I ain't that guy anymore. And they can't handle that because they want you to be what you were in the past. And sometimes we're guilty of that as well, right? There are times where I don't really like reunions because everybody goes back to the time that was as opposed to where we are right now. I wish more was spoken about how do we end that friendship? How do we end those things that aren't?
Obviously, you're someone who is an expert when it comes to leadership, especially leadership in itself. And I wanted to start with a question about what's gone wrong in leadership, because it feels that we're facing a crisis where people are unwilling to take accountability for their actions, their thoughts, and admit when they're wrong. Why do you think that's happening right now?
The biggest problem for me, I believe, is that a lot of people think that leadership is just individual acts of bravery. So people will look at LeBron and go, oh man, it's a leader, what have you, and they won't necessarily look at the team. Yes, he can go into spaces and he can influence it, but in every single team he's got to have lieutenants. He's got to have a system that he's playing within, and then that brings out the best for him. And I believe a lot of the problems that we have specifically around leadership is people focus too much on the individual rather than the system. So if I think I support Liverpool, we'll get over that, right? But I support Liverpool. You think about that team under the leadership of Jurgen Klopp now. There's a lot of stuff that they've been able to achieve in a small while. Now, I'll put my hand on my heart and I'll say Jurgen is not in the same league as Guardiola, right? I've got whatever his name is from Man City, and that's not a disrespect, but this guy he's just on another level. But when I look at the team that I support, I've seen what he's done. I've seen his style. I've seen the way that the players will go out on the pitch and give everything for him, but not just for him, but for the badge, for the whole system, for the team. He's just like an activator as part of that system. When he's gone, whether we get Xabi Alonso or whoever else is going to go and pick up afterwards, that system will still be in there of the excellence that they expect, and then that person has to stand up to that standard. The problem I find, whether it's political, community, business, religious, familial, is people place too much emphasis on the person rather than the system and what that actual system requires for you as a leader.
Because when I think of the system, it's I guess people like to focus on a leader because it's easier. If we take, for example, politics, prime ministers, Boris and the rest of it, where people are willing to ignore all of the mistakes that he's done and hold him up to a light because he maybe done one thing right, rather than looking at the whole system around him that's kind of broken down. So how do we get people to shift away from looking at the individual to start looking at the system, as it were?
I tell you, if I had the answer, bro, you'd be in my 70-foot mansion, 70-foot boat now, having that conversation. It's behaviour change. Yeah. It is behaviour change. And to kind of go back to some of the conversations we were having offline before, we realised that sometimes some people are independently driven to kind of go, I want better. Others are very much herd mentality and then follow the crowd. And again, you think back to what you were saying about the Prime Minister and all the stuff that happened in lockdown. There were people who I know personally who could have challenged him and held him accountable, and they didn't. But now they're sitting in the House of Lords and they don't have to worry about anything anymore. And so it's a real question about how do you balance those values? What is it that's really important to you? And I have this saying, and sometimes people laugh at me and they don't agree with it, but I say your values can't be bought.
Your values can't be bought?
No.
So
your values can't be bought.
So you think okay.
I see what on purpose, man.
Because I'm thinking in my head, so if your values can't be bought, then that means if you're doing something which is against your values, that's your real value. Is that what you're saying?
Right. If you say your value is integrity, but I can pay you enough to turn a blind eye against integrity, that ain't your value. You're saying it's your value, but it ain't your value.
But what if it's trying to play the long game?
You can play the long game, but in playing the long game, your values still have to be intact, right? Your values may change, but it's got to be about, if your value is integrity, how are you going to honestly turn a blind eye when you're seeing a lack of integrity around you? That's not, you don't value that anymore. You're just saying that it's one of the things, but you don't value it. For me, a value is something which guides your behavior. It guides the direction that you go in. It guides the way that you think about something. If somebody can buy you out of that, then at the end of the day, that's not a value anymore.
That's a good point. That's a good point. It's interesting though, because I feel like integrity in itself is no longer a valuable value for leaders.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Yeah, because I don't think people care anymore. I guess it's like, again, with the whole politics example, even like certain CEOs like Elon Musk or whatever, like people are more happy for them to be like honest or show their true colours rather than being integral and doing the right thing. Because who decides what the right thing is, I guess.
Yeah. And that's okay. But don't say that your integrity if you know that you're going to be dishonest.
Yeah.
Just say that, you know, at the end of the day, I'm here to do a job. And to be fair, there's some of the guys, I don't even want to mention his name, the man who owns X, all right, but all them other kind of stuff. I actually rate them because they're like, screw this, I don't believe in this, this is what I'm about. And people go, oh my God, you shouldn't be like, you should be fit. I'm like, at least I know where I stand with him. If I go and I have to drop coin on that platform, I know exactly where he stands, and that's the choice that I make. And a lot of it is about accountability and who you surround yourself with. Now for me, I'm always a believer that whoever's around me should be able to lift me up, gas me up, but cuss me out. On equal measure. If you are within my circle, you can honestly say to me, Dave, what you did there, I don't think was right. And here's how I think you should do it better. And this is why I believe that. But you'd also be in that space to go, right, Dave, what you did was good. I'm going to actually gas you up. But they also hold me accountable on the values that I hold dear. So there's so many things and so many times where I've gone to go and do a business deal or done something, and my friends around me, they go, are you sure that sits with your values? And they'll repeat back to me what it is around honesty, integrity, accountability, and all the rest of it. And I'm like, right, that's a lot of money on the table. And they go like, but honestly, and I'm like, okay. At the end of the day, if I made money on Monday, lost it on Tuesday, I can still come back and make money on Wednesday without losing my values. And for me, that's the important thing. But then a lot of people don't really think that. And that's why, for me, a big part of I'm not religious. I grew up in a Christian household. Me and my wife both left church in our early 30s. All of our siblings are still dying the wool in church. But we moved away because we couldn't deal with dogma. We couldn't deal with the religious kind of like doctrine. But we're very, very spiritual people. Like, I will connect. Like, when you call me and we had our conversation, that's a spiritual conversation because we connected on frequency. Sometimes people will call me and they go, oh, we need to be on my podcast. I go, okay, what time? Call me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm there, all right? Because the frequency's not there. Yeah. But the spiritual stuff is because I liked what you stood for. I saw some of your stuff from before, and I love that, and that was the value piece. And that, for me, is important. That connection, that frequency, because you know, if you felt that I was out of pocket or I was doing something wrong, you wouldn't be afraid to challenge me on that. Whereas if somebody didn't have that relationship, they may hold back. Yeah. And that value piece, for me, I think is incredibly important, and that makes all the difference for me.
That's quite interesting, because there's two ways I want to go with this. Yeah. Because there's the one hand, it's like, how do you find clarity on your values? And how do you make sure they develop over time? Because some values might not be relevant as they were beforehand. But also, the friends that you have around you, how do you ensure that they're holding you accountable and not being a hater? Okay. Because some people aren't willing to share everything with their friends for fear of like evil eye or whatever it may be. And some friends could generally just be like bad mind. Yeah. But then how do you have like open, honest conversation and making sure that you're surrounded by the right people?
Okay. Don't be afraid to put friends in the acquaintance box. Dash them in the acquaintance box when they pass the expiry date, like some stale carrots. The truth is, honestly, we're always on a journey, and so we're always gonna think about those values will be changing. So I think my values around integrity and around honesty and clarity have always been ones. But then I used to value religion. And it's not because I had that, what I believed at that time was that religious connection. That value's changed now for me to being more spiritual. And so they're not stuck in the wall, but you will know the things that you will stand by. If you're under pressure and you have to make a choice, you will know what those values are. And it comes over time. It's tried and error. And to your second point about the friends, look, friends should know exactly where you stand. Like, I was talking to a guy yesterday, we went for a lunch, and there's three of us at the table, and two of us who were the older ones were giving him stick because he was looking for validation on Instagram and social media. And I threw a question to him. I said, all right, all those people who you're looking for likes and engagement, how many of them could you pick up the phone to any time of the night, call them and go, listen, I'm in a bit of a thing. Can you come and help me? And he just looked at me. He was like, no, you're right. I said, you haven't answered my question. I said, I bet you it's less than 5. And I said, but in that 5, and I always say, the rule of your hand, there's probably like 5 ride or dies, family or friends, who know exactly what you stand for, who know exactly where you are going and what your ambitions are. And equally, you feed into them as much as they feed into you. If a person's a hater, you're not my friend. This sounds weird, right? But I don't know about any haters, because by the time any of that comes on my radar, you're not in my realm of thinking anyway. And if there are people who do hate what I've done or what have you, I'm not giving you it. I'm not letting you run rent free in my head when I've got people who will phone me up, who will call me. I was saying to you just now, I was talking to one of your former guests, Shope. We're on the phone on the way here. Shope is he's one of my dudes. I know if I call that guy, he's got me. He knows if I call him, if he calls me, I've got him as well. And we know what our value system is. And again, friends and all that kind of stuff, it fluctuates over time, but you'll know. Mm-hmm. You'll know. Mm-hmm. You'll know people who, the ones who are clapping when you do well.
Yeah.
You know the ones who are sharing your content when you don't even have to ask them. You know those ones who are bigging you up and going, do you know what, you did a damn good job. I'm proud of you. Come in and they will hug you and they'll tell you, I love you, bro, without having to say no homo. Right? And all the kind of stuff. They'll come in and because they love you, your family. The other ones who are giving you the side eye and all the rest of that, I just move them out. Why are you, and I honestly, people know me like this. I'm like, why are you here? Like a brother said, like, I haven't caught up with you for ages. And I'm like, yeah, because we're done. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, what do you mean? I said, we're done. I said, when was the last time you actually called me up proper?
Yeah.
Nah, Dave, don't go on like that. I said, I'm not going on like anything. We just came to the end of that. I'm cool. I'll be friendly. I like you, but we're not friends. We're not. Oh, you're a bit deep, Dave. I said, I can go deeper. But we're not.
Yeah.
And why invest our energy pretending in something that doesn't exist? And coming back to your point at the beginning, I just think we just need to be more straightforward. Like, we're cool, but you're my friend, you're my acquaintance. You're my friend, we're friendly.
So what do you class as a friend then? Someone that you can talk to all the time?
My friend is my ride or die.
Yeah.
That's it, is my friend. That's to be my friend, we're talking on the phone. We're not just WhatsApping. We're literally picking up the phone and calling. I'm seeing you at least twice a year. That happens to me all the time. I'm seeing you at least twice a year. I'm looking at you in the white of your eyes, all right? And even if you live miles away, get on that damn Zoom or whatever, where I'm looking at you in the white eyes. But you know about me. You know my vulnerabilities. You know about my strengths. But I can also go, I'm going through some shit right now. I just want to just sit with you in that, because I know it's not easy for you. And you know, and there are degrees, right? So I have a men's group. Shope's part of that men's group. I have a men's group. There's about 20 of us. Actually, slightly less. And they're different degrees, all right? But we are open in that group. We talk about our challenges as parents, our challenges with our partners, our challenges ourselves, some of the insecurities we may have around work or business. And we go deep. And for me, those are my friends. Like, in that group, there were a couple. I remember it was in 2021. I had a moment, and I was just like, man, I'm literally going through. And one of my mans, I used to live in Hertfordshire at the time. One of my man, them in the group, got in his car from Essex and drove all the way over to me. He said, I'm coming to your house now. And when my man came to that, just before he came to my house, he said, you'll hear it, you know who you are, right? Just before he came to my house, I cried my eyes out. I literally cried my eyes out because I was like, that's my boy. Like, you'd call me tomorrow and say, Dave, I need X. I'm leaving my yard. I'm leaving my yard because he did that. You know, and for me, that's what it is. I think your friends are the people who will champion you, who will carry you, who will know your weaknesses and your strengths, but who will accept you for who you are. Sometimes that could be a big one with varying degrees of intimacy, right? Not everybody knows, but but those are the people where you kind of like go, I can pick up my phone and I know you got me. You can pick up my phone, your phone, and you know I've got you, unless your phone got stolen. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, it's a private joke that we had before we came on here. But you know that person's gonna come and they'll go and support you. But you know when that friend is there. And that's it for me. And some friends are 3 months, some friends are 3 years, some friends are for a lifetime. And it's actually okay. And I actually think we should give ourselves permission to go, it's all right, it's done.
Do you know what? It's refreshing to hear that. But sometimes it's like, there's seasonal friendships.
Yes.
And there are friendships whereby, like some people, like me personally, I might not talk to you for like a couple of months. But as soon as we link up, it's like nothing ever happened.
Energy, yeah.
It's like energy like that. And then there's also with some people, especially to make new friends now, it's so much harder. Because there's more on investment that needs to go into it. It's like going on a date, basically. Do you know what I mean? Whereas with some of your friends who you might have grown up with, like in school, secondary school, college, uni, whatever, it's like you've got that kind of history. And I think the friends that you have, especially during uni, is like probably the most formative because you're literally spending 24/7 if you live on campus or whatever. And you don't get that type of intensity so quickly with new friends. And so it's easy to build weak ties rather than actually making strong ties. And it's easy to lean on like the old relationships, even though they're not necessarily serving you as much.
See, and that's the problem. Were you in the 30s now?
Yeah, I'm 30s, yeah.
Okay, in the 30s. I'm just making sure, all right? So in your 30s now, the way you look at life is very differently than what you looked at in your 20s.
100%, yeah.
What you tolerate now, very, very different.
I'm with you. Because it's so funny you said that because like I've had to make conscious decisions around like who I spend my time with, who I decide to spend my energy with. Because I used to spend so much time like uplifting people, helping people. And it's sometimes just thrown in your face. And you don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Yeah. Yeah. And you never know. Like my wife always laughs at me because she says, you've given so much. I'm cool with that. I'm absolutely cool with that. There are people, like even quite recently, there were one or two individuals who I knew I gave some stuff to and it didn't come back. I wasn't expecting it to come back. Let me make that really clear. But that the fact that as an individual, you saw me pour into this space and you didn't think in your head, oh, Dave with X, then it made me go, okay, we're friendly. And that's cool. That's absolutely calm because then that barrier and that boundary has been set. And again, as you get older, like, as I say, I'm 55 now, right? I turn 55 in a couple of weeks. In April 7th, just depending on when this gets published. So I want presents, right? Just send me cash, all right? But there's so many ways that it shifts. Like a lot of two of my oldest friends have been ride or die. My oldest friend has been my best friend since I was 5. And then my other one we met when I was about 16, 17. But all between that, I've met other people and we've been quite close and, and it's not been static. I've had periods where there were quite a lot and then it shrunk down. Within the last 2 years, there were 2 women that have become really, really close friends of mine. And I'm worried about it because I'm like, oh, I'm married, man. Can you have a close friendship with a woman and da, da, da. But things were clear and they know stuff about me that other people don't because we know what our boundaries are. I can feel vulnerable to them. They can feel vulnerable to me. We can have that conversation. And a lot of it is trial and error, man. Yeah. It is just trial and error. But just knowing, and I said that the key for me is, can I pick up the phone? If I can't pick up the phone, sorry, we're friendly. Yeah. If I can't, and that's okay, because then at least I know I'm not gonna. What I don't want to do is set myself an unrealistic expectation that if I call that person that they'll be there for me. They're not there then for me, and then I'm disappointed. That's not their fault. You know what? That's mine.
So I had this conversation with my therapist as well around it, like around vulnerability and sharing, and like because I don't want to be let down. I decide not to trust sometimes, and I end up just keeping it to myself. And it shouldn't be that way. Like I should be able to believe that I can rely on this person, and it's not to say it's a test, but I should be able to.
It's a test. I'm saying it's a test. Okay, sometimes you got to test it out, bro.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to test it out. Yeah. There are times where there have been people and I'm like, oh my God, I can tell them stuff. And I test and I throw in a little bit of misinformation. I'm not lying. Right? Some people, I don't care if you're listening and you know it's you, right? Just suck it up and deal with it. But I thrown out a little bit of misinformation and that little misinformation come back to me. Wow. And I'm like, okay, that's the test. It's cool. Dave, we don't chat anymore. Yeah. Okay.
There's a reason. There's a reason.
I gave you misinformation that happened to someone else. Okay, we're good. So it is testing. Yeah. Look, I've been married. This year I've been married 29 years. All right? 29 years. And we're still learning from each other. We're still learning. We're still testing each other. Because we've changed in our 20s. Our recklessness that we had in our 20s, then settling down with our picnic them in our 30s, establishing business and all this stuff in our 40s, and now we're in our 50s where our girls are in their 20s and they're starting to develop their own life. We're starting to, well, there are a couple of things. We're starting to think about we're getting older, parents and their siblings are getting older, our kids are kind of like going into their new lease of life. All those things change.
Yeah.
And you as a person are changing as well. And one of the things I will say this is that, I know we're going off on here one of the things I realize is that some people want you to be the person that you were in the first year of university.
100%.
Or give in, or there, just, oh yeah, I can go to, you know, I know he's going to sort him out, go check him out, everything's Chris. You know, I ain't that guy anymore. And they can't handle that because they want you to be what you were in the past. And sometimes we're guilty of that as well, right? Like, there are times where I don't really like reunions because everybody goes back to the time that was as opposed to where we are right now. And then people want you to be, and sometimes you go back and you're like, I don't even know why I hung around with you, what it is, like, or why am I even going back? And all of it is learning and giving ourselves permission that sometimes it's cool and sometimes we just need to move on. And it is hard to let go of relationships, and I think I wish more was spoken about how do we end that friendship? How do we end those things that aren't solving? And obviously, it doesn't need to be no song and a dance where we're sending out a golden letter with a seal of approval at the back and saying, "Bun you, you're out of my league." But there's got to be some way for us to be able to go, right, this is not serving me anymore. Because I feel uncomfortable around you. I don't trust you. I don't believe I can pick up the phone and call you. And that is fine. That's fine. And I'll say this, I know you've got a bigger audience, but I wish more men knew that we could do that. Because as men, sometimes we hold on to some brethren because of history, which we should have dashed away a long time. And when I say dashed away, not the person just ignoring them, but knowing that that person doesn't serve you and you don't serve them.
I mean, when you put it that way, it feels so like, what's the word? It's like you're using someone.
Transactional.
Transactional, that's it. And I feel like a true friendship is meant to be like, I've got your back, you've got your back. It's not that I need you for anything.
Yeah.
But then I guess as I'm coming to realize is that it does matter who you spend your time with.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the conversation that you're having.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter like the places you're going and like who's helping you get to that next level.
Yeah. It's transactional if you hold on to it. If you hold on to a relationship that's not serving you spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or what have you, it is transactional. That's transactional because you're like, what can I get from them? What can they get from me? Whereas a friend, you're like, my boy's got me. I'm cool. I don't even have to think about that. My girl's got me. I don't even have to think about that stuff because I know it's there because we're having the conversation. We're realizing where the boundaries are, what we're comfortable to speak about and what we're not comfortable to speak about. That is relational. It's when we're kind of like, ooh, like, can they deliver? Or do I really want to do that? That's transactional.
What about creating new relationships or new friendships? Because I feel like that starts in transactional in nature, no?
Oh, it depends. It actually depends. So say, for example, you may, I think of one of my good friends. She started off as a coaching client.
Transactional.
Right. But that wasn't the friendship. That was transactional. Started off as a coaching client. We did some really, really, really good work. Then we got to the end of that stuff and then we still kept in touch. Usually when I'm coaching people, I coach them, we're good, blah, blah, I'll be friendly. But we started to have this conversation. We were having some deep conversations. And then she started to tell me some stuff. I started to tell her some stuff. And I was like, I can't coach you again. I just want you to know that. You know that. She said, what do you mean? I said, what we have now can never be transactional again. Because what we have is a relationship. Let me make sure I get the right one. Relationship. I can't say relation, my wife cusses me. But relationship. And it's important for us to recognize what those boundaries are around that. Yeah. And so sometimes it'll happen randomly. I've created new friendships because I used to love music and the commonality with people in music. I've got a couple of friends now, like as I said, I'm in my gardening bag now in my 50s, right? I turned into Farmer Dave. But just yesterday I got a friend of mine send me some sunflower seeds that I can put in my garden. Our connection there is around, we originally started out because she was working for a big tech company. I came along and spoke. We kept in touch. Families met, everybody cool. And now one of the commonalities that we have or one things we have in common is our love for our families and our love for our garden. Something new. So there's space to be able to create stuff. And again, it's alignment of values. What do they have that they enjoy, that you enjoy, and what are the boundaries that you have in place that allow you to connect honestly? And then you build on it from there.
And then talking of values, so how did you find clarity on what your values were, and at what age did that happen for you?
So I believe a lot of it started in church. A lot of it, I still believe that even though I don't go to church, a lot of my value system is driven by what I have in church. So that love for self, love for your family, love for your neighborhood, the honesty, not lying, that kind of responsibility. A lot of that started from there. And then as I went through school and work, and all those things stayed with me. Like, there were times that I wouldn't back. I remember meeting one of my head of years many years later, and he's like, David, you didn't back down from an argument. I was like, it's not that I didn't back down from an argument. If I thought you were wrong as an adult, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. Now, obviously, coming from a Caribbean African background, that's our problem, right? That's our problem, telling your parents that they were, or elders that they were wrong. But I'd say, no disrespect, but I don't disagree with your point of view. I don't agree with it. Yeah. I'm not going to disrespect you. No, you have to come with my way. No, I don't agree with it. I think it's wrong. I can literally debate you to the point where I can show you that it's really wrong and it's trash. But I'm not going to do that because of the respect, or, oh no, you can't do that. And then they push you over and then all the respect has gone out the window. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you about yourself. But it's always been, I'm really clear about, if I get that feeling in my stomach that something's wrong, I know you've gone against my value system. And if you've gone against my value system, I have to have that conversation with you. I don't feel comfortable about X. And I've left jobs where I've just gone, I'm not doing this because I'm not comfortable with it. And so over time, it's just built, but it definitely started from a lot of the discipline that I had being raised in church. And that, I was raised in Northwest London, in Willesden, predominantly Caribbean church of believers, who had a similarity. There was that Windrush generation, we had that similarity. And then it expanded. I expanded into more Ghanaian and Nigerian neighborhoods. I was one of those, I'm gonna let you know, I was one of those ones that I got in trouble because there was a dichotomy when I was growing up between, like, you were Caribbean or you were African, right? And there was no meeting of them. And I'm like, listen, all of you lot, you got burnt skin, come together, let's all just chat, and we are all good, right? Because the white people don't like you anyway, so they even try your nonsense, so let's have some commonality. And I remember, like, I think I may have told you, but one of the things I take pride in is I actually have a number of African names. So my Yoruba name is Oyewole, my Igbo name is Obiora, my Moroccan name is Bilal, my Kenyan name is Barak. I was like, come on people, can you not give me another name than Barak, all right? Tabo is my South African name. I think there was one or two others. I can't remember. I got a Zimbabwe name as well.
You got a Ghanaian name?
Ghanaian name. Well, I'm coming, man. Take time, man. I was born on Monday, so what's my name? Come on, man.
I'm not Ghanaian, so I didn't even know.
You don't know? Okay.
I'm Nigerian.
It's Kojo. Okay.
Oh, Kojo. Oh,
yeah. It's Kojo? No, it's Kofi. Kojo.
It's K something.
I'm going to get my Ghanaian people, if you're listening to me, forgive me, it's been a long day and my blood sugar's low, all right? But yeah, and those things are really important for me. Having a piece of that history is really important for me. And I did that because obviously I see Fella at the back in the studio here. So the person who gave me my name, Oyewole, was the keyboardist for Fela Kuti.
Oh, snap.
All right, so Dele Sasimi. And explaining the meaning about the chief coming and he who brings wealth. Come on now, give me a name like that. You can't, are you mad? Yeah. Like, David's calm, but when you call me Oyewole and I'm walking into a room, I want people to know exactly what that means and what that heritage is. And so much of those values came from that environment of being really proud of my blackness, of my African roots. I had this t-shirt, I'm gonna have to design a new one. It says, made in Britain, designed in the Caribbean, sourced from Africa. That thing's important for me. That shapes how I see the world. That's how valuable the world is to me. So that's where a lot of those values came from.
That's nice. So you mentioned that you've had to leave jobs based on like a clash in values. Can you tell me what happened? Yeah,
so one, as I said, I went in, so I grew up a Seventh-day Adventist, so I never worked on Saturdays. And I remember there was one boss who just kept on giving me grief. He was like, you're an accountant, you need to come in on a Saturday. I'm like, you ain't paying me enough to do that. And even if you did pay me enough, it's still my day off. Oh no, I used to leave early on a Sunset Friday, and I said, listen, I will come in early any other day, and I'm out, I'm gone. And he was like, well, I need you to work Saturdays. I said, where in the contract does it say that I need to do that? And he said, well, if you don't do that, then it could affect your promotion. I said, you know what? I said, all the best. Bounced. Are you leaving? Yeah, why are you surprised? I'm out. I am gone. And I left. And there are others where in organizations, some people wanted me to turn a blind eye to certain things that I saw. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I work in integrity. If you don't want me to, remove me from the account. Because I'm not going to do it. Oh, it's only a job. No, this is my integrity. If I see a little bit of fraud happening, right, and I think this might be a bit a bit of being brought up as a black person. Like, if you think about it now, right, I don't know if it happens to you. If I go into a shop and all them automatic tills, I ain't leaving the shop without a receipt.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
I'm not leaving the shop without a receipt.
Yeah.
I don't care if Bob, Billy and Sue left before me and they're calm and walking out. David McQueen is not leaving that shop without a receipt. Because you've seen, and I've seen it so many times where people are like, oh, did you? I'm like, I just bought it. It's on my, I've literally people say, oh, did you buy this stuff?
Yeah.
So to reduce that kind of stuff, I'm like,
Let's have it.
So you're hyper aware. You're hyper aware that we will be seen differently. And it doesn't mean that it's all negative, but you're just hyper aware because that's just the world we live in. So if I'm hyper aware of going into a shop and getting a receipt, you think I'm going to go and do accounts where I can't see the follow through on, nah, I'm not going to do it. So I've always made to people, these are the things that I will do, and I'm not going to turn the blind eye if I see something that's going to be fraudulent. And plus, to be fair, I was always of the opinion that no matter where I go in my life and what I do, I don't want years down the line somebody to go back and find something in my past which dishonored my values, and then that gets brought up, and then individuals who have either spoken to me or have admired me because I've held on to my values then find something that I didn't. I'm like, nah, I can't do that. So I kept it moving.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think it also takes a lot of guts to be able to walk away from certain things, especially if they're paying you well.
I'll give you one more story. So in the early 2000, 9/11, was that 2001?
2001,
Yeah. So my business went to the wall, living in Enfield at the time. Business went to the wall. And wasn't making any money, getting offered really crappy money. 6 figures business, and then people want to come and offer me 24 grand to go and work in place. I said, you lot are mad. But anyway, it is what it was. The world had changed, right? I had an opportunity where I could have done, because I was doing systems at the time, I had an opportunity where I could have gone and close to $250,000 helping people to do some systems around setting up the payment and the processing system for a porn company. And I walked away. I'm going to say to the listeners now, all straight up, have I ever watched porn? Let me keep it 100. Yes, I have. Right? Let me not even pretend that my man has not been on Pornhub in his life or whatever. Like, I'll just keep it 100. But there's something very different around. There's something very different about saying I smoked a spliff than being involved in the trafficking of drugs.
Yeah.
There's something very different about being going, yeah, my man sent me a link on WhatsApp and I ended up on fatbooty.com or what have you, right? As opposed to being involved in that space where it becomes an addiction and it affects your whole way that you see the world. I did not want to be part of a system that no matter which way you looked at it, supported that. And the one thing I will also say to a lot of people as well is that everybody has choice. But a lot of the machinery that goes behind porn is quite exploitative. And it desensitizes people, and it stops a lot of individuals from valuing the intimacy of a relationship. And so whilst I know as an individual that I have consumed that, I didn't want to be part of a system that supported it. And so I walked away from it. And I know when I go on, and I speak about this sometimes, and when I tell people, they're like, right, you turned down like £200,000, you couldn't help. And I'm like, well, the same £200,000 that I could have got from them, I can get from somewhere else. I don't need to hang my hat on one solution. If I'm skilled enough, and it took me a long while to get back on, but if I'm skilled enough, I can go back because my value says don't do that. And then, I got shortlisted to be an MP.
That same period?
No, a number of years afterwards.
Oh, so if you...
They asked me, they wanted more black MPs, just so long. I didn't do it. I was like, long, you lot. I was making jokes about the whip and they didn't get it, so I was just like long, you leave you lot, all right? But there were other political and positions that people have approached me about. Imagine if I had gone and taken that stuff. Yeah. You know they will pull it out. Like literally today I saw there was an article in the newspaper where they were talking about P. Diddy getting done for sexual allegations, and then they put Prince Harry on the photo.
Mate, yeah, from something that 2007 or whatever.
And they put him on there, Harry's name's on. Listen, I did a post today and I said, look, I did the whole picture and Prince William's in there as well. I was like, your future king's there as well. Yeah. Why was he cropped out of the picture? Yeah. And you realise that there are systems, and again, come back to this whole thing about leadership. There are political and economic systems that work in a certain way. You just have to be aware of how you land in that space and how you are going to respond to it. And I'm a firm believer that my big thing, and we'll talk about it when we talk about the book, my big thing is around decisions. And when you make decisions, can you live with that? Can I live with the decision that I make now and look back in 10 years' time and go, okay, it may not have been the right decision, but it may not have been the right decision now, but I made the right decision at the time.
On that, right? So you've had quite a varied career.
Yes.
Where you started in accountancy, then you went into tech, started your own business, things didn't go well.
Yeah.
And so when things start going downhill, like you said, you lost your house, like you could then get into the pattern of questioning your decisions and questioning if you made the right decision that's going on towards the plan that you've created. So how do you stay steadfast on like the decisions that you made and knowing that it is for a greater plan and not like regretting something that you should have done?
So my wife is that's my girl, man. That's my hero. And she don't mince words when it comes to stick. She will question me about my values, as well as my really close friends as well. And I realized that in a capitalist world, it can be very easy for individuals to compromise what they believe in order to be able to make a quick buck. But if you have been made aware of the ability to create a business or a system that can generate income, and it doesn't have to be illegal, and you don't have to cut corners, why would you want to go down the other end? Like there are times where I see people who are running successful stuff, and they're still dabbling in a little bit of fraud. I'm like, why are you so greedy? Like, I've got quite a few people in my network who are multi-millionaires, and I've worked for a billionaire or two. And whilst that's calm, because you never kind of like have to worry about money, there comes a point where you actually don't need more than a certain amount.
Yeah.
Like if you earn over £100,000 in a year, you're probably in the 1% of people in the world, like 100 grand. Like the average wage in England is 34 grand. So if you're hitting 100 grand, you're already making. So running a business is over that. And I look at that and I'm like, don't get me wrong, I love, if I can go on a plane and I can go and jump in first class, don't get me wrong. Take out the Amex Platinum card, lash that thing down, knowing that I can pay for it is sweet. But even still, and again, I mentioned my wife sometimes, I said, but Dave, you give so much away for free. Sometimes just being able to help other people is fine by me. And so knowing that I have that skill set of being able to create income and work alongside other people to be able to create income, I just don't see the point of having to be fraudulent. Because the downside of it is if I'm fraudulent, as a black man who's fraudulent, they'll throw the book at me if I ended up in court. They'll throw the book at me. And I look at it and I go, the risk is not worth it. Again, there's a whole accountant coming back out, right? You look at the risk scenario, right? You do the goal scenarios, you look at it, you weigh up the risk, it's not worth it. I look at that and it doesn't make any sense to me. So when I'm faced with those situations, it has been quite troubling. But then I go, what can I really lean on? Like, so even when I first started my first personal development company, for at least the first 18 months, probably, the majority of my money came to doing Excel spreadsheets. Because I was a don. I was a don at Excel. Them nested what-if statements and scenarios and pivots. Boy, let me tell you, macros, I was a don. And I did that alongside what I can do, rather than going, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to make my money from here. So I always look at it and go, what are the solutions that I have? Who are the people around me that can feed into me, that can give me an idea about what it is that I do? And then I go, okay, and then we take it from there. So I've never really come from a place of, times have been desperate, but I've never come from a place of desperation as to what my solution would look like.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love sharing that with people as well. Like even when I think about some of the young kids that I've worked at when I was younger, and as I say, when I was a youth worker before, and I see options, I was like, with all due respect, I started a tuck shop in school when I was 14 that outsold the school 4-1. They shut me down, which is another story. But I still learned that there was an opportunity there, which didn't mean me involving harming anybody, which didn't mean involve me defrauding anybody. It just meant that I was able to use all the critical thinking skills that allowed me to go and get those Adidas and Sergio Tacchini clothes that I wanted to have. And as much as I can, I really try to get people to start to think, what's those alternatives? What can I do differently that allows me to thrive rather than just surviving? Make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So who was like your inspiration then? Who were you trying to model after? Was there anybody?
Quite a few people. So politically, I had the whole...
David Lammy, yeah. David Lammy, yeah.
I have no idea who that is. So I'm a mess with it. Politically, I grew up, so I had like the guys called the Mangrove Nine, so they were activists in West London, so Darkest Howe. A couple of I saw that. My dad apparently told me that I was reading Malcolm X when I was 7 in the library. Yeah, the autobiography of Malcolm X. Walter Rodney, Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Nkrumah, Nyerere, all those guys were really, really powerful. And then I realized as I got older, we were predominantly male, so I started to look at a lot of women ones as well. Shirley Chisholm, Madam C.J. Walker. I'm trying to remember the name of the woman who started Carnival in England. It'll come back to me now. But all these individuals were incredibly powerful to me. But I didn't see many black role models in terms of business until I got a lot older. So Richard Branson was my go-to guy for many years. And the irony of that is many years later, I ended up doing some work with him, and which was, we got on pretty well. But yeah, it was primarily, I saw a lot of black excellence within the community around me, both politically and in the church that I was involved in. And then as I got older and got into business, I saw a lot more people there, and so all those kind of, I just look at people and go, oh, what are they doing really well? What's that habit they do? Oh, I wouldn't mind adopting that. And then just taking that. So no one singular person, but I look at a group of individuals and see what's the success that works for them. Because again, look, I went for older couples who were married. I like to see older couples who had laughs, who were able to laugh with each other. That's what I pull from for my marriage. Yeah. If you're an older couple together and you were just vexed and serious all the time, I was like, I don't want to do that. I do not want to be a screw face like you when I'm in my 50s. I'm just not having it. But if I saw them laughing and having joy, I would go. And I remember before we got married, we sat down and I had conversations as a couple and some conversations individually. I'm just like, what is it that made you guys come alive? What is it that you do? And it's those things that kind of like really inspired me. And I hope in some way that I do the same in my business, in my marriage, as the way I operate as a father, as a mentor. Those things that I learn, I try as much to kind of like give back.
Yeah, that's a bit. I done that give back piece as well. So like, how did you think about turning that give back piece into like a business? Because you said you had a personal development company, and then now you're like in coaching. So like, what was the evolution to say how you got to here today?
Yeah, so I have a 10% tithe policy, and what that means is that 90% of the work that I do, I'll get paid for, and then 10% I will give to the community. And so I make space, whether it's around hosting dinners, whether it's around mentoring certain people, whether it's around holding space so that we can just kind of like coach and work with individuals. I do that because again, it's that whole upbringing, right? Paying tithe and what have you. It's in the DNA. It's not going anywhere. But I wanted to make sure that before I went to the 10%, that I had money that would sustain me and my family. A couple of times it didn't quite, and I was like, I can't take food off my table to feed others. I've got to feed myself first and then feed others from my overflow. And what I realized is a lot of the stuff that came to me doing the personal development and doing the leadership coaching was, for me, it came quite straightforward to me, but it was rocket science to a lot of other people. And I was like, okay, let me just bring people along with me. So I write a lot, as you see. I'll do podcasts like these. I'll do webinars because I really want people to kind of like get bits and apply it to themselves. I've written a book and I want people to be able to see that and take a bit of there and go, okay, how can I apply it? And then if they want more, they can either go, let me go see else what David's doing, or let me take out my checkbook or get the company to pay out my checkbook and let me see how I can level it up next.
Because one of your sayings is that you can't find your purpose has to find you.
100%.
How can your purpose find you?
Again, you have to be, I think you have to be present, and it's a load of experiences. So I know that no matter how much I try to run away from it, I will always be a teacher. And what I mean by that is I will always teach people things. As an accountant, I used to have the accountants in my office sat around me sometimes when they were like, David, how did you do that spreadsheet? And a whole hour I'm sitting down there teaching conditional formatting and macros and whatever, and people are like, rah, and they're taking notes, and I'm going, look, I'm saving you a couple of hours for your reconciliation, all right? When I was in IT, I'll be teaching people project management. When I was a youth worker, I'm teaching younger people how to do the youth work as well. So I'm always been in that space. When I was in church, I was teaching people how they can be, young ministers. So I've realized it was something that came naturally to me. I could teach people what I knew. And so my purpose, I believe, has always been around being able to empower people, but through learning. So it's not so much that I'm telling you what to do, but I'm introducing you to concepts, and I want you to think about how can you do it and do it better. So I've always been of the opinion that my pupils should always surpass me. So I'll come with the information, but you should always be beyond me. And people are like, oh, you know, I feel bad. What are you feeling bad for? Like, I'm getting paid. Don't worry about me. I'm good. I want you to be better.
I agree.
I want you to be better. Oh, you know, like, Dave, I don't want to chat. I'm like, you ain't challenging me, because for me and you get on a stage and we have to throw down as a speaker, I'm going to wipe the floor with you. So you ain't challenging me. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. So for me, it's always been recognizing that all through my life, that teaching bit I can do all the other stuff, but that teaching bit has been quite an intentional part of me. So my purpose is to teach. And whether I do that through coaching, whether I do it for workshops, whether I do it for a book, whether I do it through speaking, it's always teaching people and giving permission to be empowered so that they can learn and then take it to the next level.
And then have you always found it like, because when you're teaching, it's a lot outpouring, it's a lot of energy that you're giving out.
Yeah.
And sometimes that energy might not be reciprocated. Like you can feel quite drained or burnt out. Can you tell me a time when you were burnt out and how you kind of...
Oh my gosh, always, man. Oh, so many times. I was burnt out 2 weeks ago, my brother. Oh my God. And I literally had to say no to quite a few things.
Yeah.
Because although I teach it as a coach, and I say, you know, a doctor is always the last person to take their own medicine. And there are sometimes I've looked at stuff and I'm like, oh man, they could do X better. And then I go and commit a bit of, oh, you could have done it. And then I go and commit a bit more. But then I'm a lot more attuned to knowing when your body's kind of like going, nah, Dave, slow down. And so what I do intentionally is make sure I spend time where it's just me, regrouping, but I also spend time around people that can feed back into me as well. And very often people think that they need to be older than me. I'm like, no, I'll go out with a group of young people and I just talk some stuff. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on TikTok. They'll ask me anything's going on in my Instagram reels. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Like I've had a couple of people introduce me to CapCut.
Oh yes. Amazing.
I'm like a baby. Like I'm like literally like I'm like, you know them, you take them kids and you put them in an adventure playground. They're like, where you going? Behind the swings, and it's like put me on CapCut. I'm like, right, I can do that. My captions as well. I can do that. What? I can take out the fillers and like But it's a group of young people that taught me that, especially when my daughter taught me that as well, and that feeds back into me. And that's beautiful because when you're in a space where you're so used to just teaching and giving out, being able to be in a position where you can receive and learn as well, absolutely powerful. And that takes the volume down. But also just making sure that you can take the time out so you're not burning yourself out.
Yeah, it's amazing because like I find when you go through those busy periods, then you do have to have like the kind of manual of what's going to take you back into your zen.
Yes.
Like I learned that one thing for me is that when I get really like anxious or tired or can't be bothered, once I listen to some music, Never Erykah Badu, like that for me gives me back my energy to just like take the sting out of things and just rethink a bit more clearly. Because sometimes when it comes to burnout, it's like you're just putting so much pressure on yourself to get things done and you're not even thinking straight. Like you literally just need to take the plug out and then rethink how 100%. Things go. Yeah.
Like as I said to you, I never work on a Saturday. I just don't. There's no work and I'm not religious anymore. I just don't work on Saturday. Like this is my day. Let me go and watch some trash on YouTube. Let me go and walk in the forest. Let me go and cook some stuff or whatever. I'll just hang out with my family. But I don't work because when I'm gone, they're not going to remember me for my work. No. Some people will. Oh, you wrote a book and did that. All right. But they're going to remember me for how present I was. And for me, it's important to do that. I also say, and I mean, I know it's limited depending on the work that you do, but I will say to people, from October, plan your holidays for the next year. Yeah. So even if that means I'm going away for a weekend, or I'm going away for it because, you know, people like us who are melanated, we need the sun. Right? We need some sunshine. We need that vitamin D top. But the tablets aren't enough. Man.
I had a vitamin D deficiency for a bit. You know.
For real?
Yeah, I had to take tablets,
But you see, it just needs to be in the sun. Right?
It needs to be in the sun. Yeah.
So I'm literally like, my missus is actually planning. I'm like, I don't care where it is, as long as there's some sun. I just want to go in there and just get bun up for a few days. But just plan it. Yeah. Just really plan it. Because then it gives that sense of balance. It gives a sense of balance. And just know, and again, coming back to that whole accountability with friends, your friends will like, my friends will look at me and they're like, bruv, you look tired. I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. They go, no, you look haggard, bruv. You look haggard. Go and get yourself a sauna, go and get a massage, go and get a holiday. And that stuff, accountability, just keeps me, it's a good reminder, but I try to make sure that before I get to burnout, that I put things in place to go, Dave, you're working too hard, you're doing too much, rein it back in.
And you mentioned your book, so The Brave Leader.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
So talk to me about what your brave kind of teaching is, because it's a different way of looking at leadership. And I love the word brave. Like it's a word, it's funny, when I started this podcast, brave is a word that came back to me because it's like feeling the fear but doing it anyway. Yes. And it's a word that we haven't used since we were like in primary school. Like it's kind of forgotten about. We can go back to fearlessness, but like Bravery is just something else. But yeah, explain to me your principle, your philosophy on Brave.
100%. So taking the word itself, it was about courage. And a lot of people are afraid. So before I really got into doing the leadership thing, the thing that I was really into was doing presentation skills. People are afraid to do this. Yeah. Terrified. Like, what's going to happen? You got a microphone, just chat. Everything's Chris. People are terrified. People are terrified to stand. And don't get me wrong, I know that it can induce a lot of anxiety depending on, what you had. And then I realized there was a lot of people who I was working with doing the presentation stuff who were in positions of leadership. And somebody said, I think you actually would be better as a leadership coach than the presentations one. I was like, what are you trying to say? I'm a trash presentation. They go, no, it will be better. And so I kind of like got into it, and more I realized that people just need to be brave about the decisions that they're going to take. And a big part of what I do is around inclusive leadership. Now,
what does that mean as well?
Second?
Yeah, what does that mean, inclusive leadership?
So the way I see inclusive leadership is that you are thinking about the impact. You're taking people on a journey, but you've got to think about the impact it has on the people that you're taking on the journey. Mm-hmm. Not just the people, but all the other stakeholders that are impacted by it as well. And one thing that really hit me, especially around 2020, was when everybody got excited and they remembered that black people exist, is that there were all these promises made, but I was saying, you don't have the systems to support it. If you're going to help me as a black individual to go to the next level, you need to make sure that I'm not feeling isolated in any way, and that it's part of your overall system to get some stuff done. So I said, I don't want you to just do a program just because I'm black. I mean, fine. If you want to do that, that's up to you. But it's got to be deeper than that. Do it because it's part of an overarching way you want to take your organization or your vision to this space. And you realize if I include black people, if I include people of color, whatever it is, and if I understand what their specific needs are in terms of development, it's better. So I used to go, I've been brought into a number of programs where it's been a black focused program, but then you got a white woman or a white guy at the front. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but do you understand what it's like to change your name from Olufemi to Tommy because Olufemi is not getting picked up when you put it out on a CV? Do you understand what that's like? Oh, I've got a friend who's got it, and they read the good out. I'm like, no, that's not the same. Do you understand what it means like when we are trying to get to a space in an organization where our parents have told us that we need to work twice as hard to get half as much? That's bad maths for a beginning, right? Let's just get that clear. But then when that's your mentality and you're working hard and you're seeing people pass you and you don't understand why, it's because you don't understand that they're playing a very different game. So if you're going to go and lead something, you need to understand what those nuances are. And I realized that there were so many people who gave really good lip service to that. And I was like, no, I'm going to write something. And I want you to understand when you're talking about race, gender, sexual orientation, age, class, all of those things, you need to understand it in the grand scheme of things. Because if you don't understand that, you have got no right to be standing up in front of a group of people who look or sound different to you and pretend that you know exactly what they're going through. I get called, I'll be honest with you, I get called in a lot of times to go and run some workshops around LGBT+. And I go, I will, but I've got 4 or 5 other people who can come and do it better than me. And I go, oh, but we want you. And I'm like, but they've got the lived experience, they can do it better than me. If you're at a push and I can go in there and I can show how I represent as an ally, but that's not my calling. Like, oh, I want you to run a women's leadership program. I've got 4 or 5 women who can do it better than me. Yeah, but we want you, Dave. I can come in and do it. But these are people who understand and resonate. I don't know about no menopause. I can empathize with it. But somebody who does that can see it differently. And so I really wanted to emphasize that with inclusive leadership, that when you're making those decisions, when you're taking people on a journey, whether it's around a product you have, whether it's around the customers you're serving, whether it's around the people that you hire, whether it's around the processes that you have in finance or HR or procurement or compliance, how wide are you thinking? Like if you're operating in London, and which is densely populated with people who aren't white, why do you have only white suppliers? Because that's the only ones you have? Really? Like, have you really done the maths and have you really thought about who's available there? And it's that kind of thinking that I wanted to do with leaders in that space. And so the brave bit comes, as you said, you take the word. It's about being courageous. It's about being bold and sometimes being able to make decisions that sometimes people may not necessarily agree with. But you know why you made that decision and you stay with it. And that was the first part of it. But BRAVE is also an acronym. So it stands for bold, resilient, agile, visionary, and ethical. The A was originally authentic, but again, go back to values. It jarred me when I was like, authentic leadership. Oh, what is that? Oh, you got to be authentic. What does that mean? Whereas I was like, if you're going to go make a decision and you're doing stuff, whether you're an employee or running your own business, how bold can you be around that? When, I think about the way that the economy is at the moment, being resilient is incredibly important. You've got to be agile. Everybody's telling you now, like, we're doing this podcast here. If you were to believe people now, the way things are saying, oh, this podcast could be done by AI.
Yeah.
I ain't chatting to no AI. Like, go away. I want to have a conversation with a person and we can look each other in our eyes and we can get a sense of what's going on. But people will be afraid of AI. So you got to be agile because AI might be part of your editing, whatever. You got to be agile around that. Not taking it anywhere away from the skilled man who's filming in here. I'm just making it very clear. But then being visionary so you can have a sense of where you're taking people and why is it you're going to that space? Why are you taking these risks? Why are you doing this stuff? And then E, ethical, which is the pillar that I believe a lot of this stands on. And it comes back to my values piece. Is it just? Is it fair? It's not an individual thing which is just moral. It's ethical, like how are we doing this that will sustain ourselves as individuals and the actual environment that we work in as well. And I just put it there because I really wanted to encourage people just to be braver. Be a little bit braver. Sometimes it may not sit well with somebody when you go and look. You were in a boardroom meeting and there was a woman who spoke and a guy spoke as well. And we ignored what the woman said, but we bigged up the guy who said exactly the same thing as the woman said. It was a good idea, Bob. It's brave to go, nah, sorry, mate, but Sandra actually said that before you. And I think we should acknowledge her and put that stuff in place without people thinking, oh, you're being politically correct. No, this is about common sense. It's about human decency. And very often people don't do that because they're afraid of rocking the boat. And so brave for me is being able to go out on a limb and being able to go, I disagree with, or this is where I'm actually coming from, and be absolutely okay with that as a leader.
Yeah. Would you say there's one of those areas that people should be focusing on more?
Start with ethical. Bold one is difficult for a lot of women. It's difficult, and I found that on doing a little bit of a tour, because a lot of times, especially in male-dominated spaces, a bold woman can be seen as aggressive, difficult to work with, all those other kind of tropes that come out there. So I've been working and speaking with people around how best do we make sure that that is intersectional so that I take into consideration a lot of the stuff around gender. But the ethical piece for me is just, it's a no-brainer. Are you being just? Are you being fair? Have you really taken into consideration the impact that's having on people other than yourself? And it's not that to me that you can't, sometimes, no matter what decision you say or however you say, somebody's going to get offended. Yeah. But if you know in your heart that you're doing it from the good place, for me, that's the main pillar to start from.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think bringing it all together, because even being bold to be ethical and actually having those values and showing them and showcasing them, because right now, the current climate is just so weird. Yeah. Like, with this whole woke thing, the woke being the new, political correct word.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're trying to shine a light on people to have a voice who wouldn't have been heard, then you're woke.
Yeah.
Or people who should be in the right places, but they're being claimed that it's DEI hires. It's just a nonsense.
Yeah.
So I think especially in this climate, to be able to actually stand for what's right and push it forward and have a vision, because having a vision and being confident in that vision, even if it goes wrong, I think is the most powerful skill of all.
100%.
And being able to just dust off your shoulder and just keep going. It's so hard.
I literally, this morning before I came out, I was doing a little bit of research. I was trying to find all the tech products that have failed in the last 10 to 15 years. From Amazon to Apple, all these products have come out and so many of them have failed. More have failed than we have seen come to light. I'm like, it took somebody brave to go and say, we're going to go and do this. And it's just trashed and tanked.
Yeah.
But that person had a vision. And the reason why individuals went with them is because they were like, well, you did it right in this space before, so let's see what's going to go. And if it doesn't work, then fine, at least we tried it. And that vision piece as well, to me, is it's getting people to at least try it. Even if you don't go out there and win, it's 100% successful, at least go and try it. Like I've tested stuff in the business and I've put stuff out. And people are going, nah. And I'm like, okay, let's go on to the next one. But the vision is, I know where I want to take people. Let's test it. If this doesn't work, we still got a journey that we're going on. Let's just see which one actually works. How
do you encourage your coachees, clients, to have a vision? Because sometimes our vision can be clouded just based on what we believe is possible, rather than truly believing in the impossible and believing what you can see. Because I know for me personally, when I first left my job, my vision was just here. I found it hard to kind of unwind the things or the unseen barriers or the rules, as they call them, to actually see what else is actually possible. So how do you help your clients kind of get a more clarity vision?
So first of all, I get them to write it down, because I think that's important to begin with. But then second, so I have this thing called I don't know if I mentioned it before, it's called your personal advisory board. And your personal advisory board are individuals, especially around your career or your business, that you get to bounce ideas off. So it could be a coach, it could be a mentor, it could be a sponsor, it could be a good friend, it could be whatever. But you can go and you can bounce those ideas off there. And if you've got a vision, just show it to them. Yeah. Some people won't get it, and that's okay. But usually people who are quite in tune with you, they'll get the direction that you're going. And often, and I tell you this, your vision should scare not only other people, but it should scare you. Yeah. When I look at my visions, my whole stomach just, like, what? You said you're going to do what? And it's absolutely scary, but then I go, right, in order to be able to go and meet that vision, I need to set some really good goals. Because as I said, what they say, a goal without a deadline is just a dream. Yeah. It's not an actual goal. And so, yeah, having that vision of what do I want to do and why as well. Like, so for me, when I think about the work that I do around leadership, is because I see so many instances where if there were the correct leadership, it will work really well. And there's so many examples, like, you know, being the captain of a sports team is really good leadership. Being able to do community activism, really good leadership. You know, and then we start to extend it out to politics and business and all the rest of it. But for me, I want to be able to drop small seeds for people to go, rah, I didn't think about it that way. But then that seed germinates and it triggers a certain kind of behavior and a certain kind of quality of behavior, so that people can go, right, now I've done this once, I can actually go and do it again. So I get people to write it down, write out that vision. I'm going to use some Bible now. My people perish if there's no vision, right? Okay, so it's still in there, still in the DNA. But write it down and then sound check it against people who they trust and who they hold dear to. And then also get them to keep you accountable to it as well. It's not always easy. Never, any behavior change is never going to be easy, but it's worth it. Definitely worth it.
I appreciate it. Thank you, David.
That's all right.
So before we wrap up, I've got a few quick fire questions for you.
That's cool.
So the first one, what's a piece of advice that you hear people give all the time, but you actually think it's bad advice?
What advice would I give my 23-year-old self? That is trash. Throw it in the bin. Hate it. Oh my God. I really hate it. You know why? You can't change the past. I prefer to say, give the advice you give yourself in the future. What would you say in 10 years' time when I'm having a conversation with me? What does that actually look like? There's another one that I really hate, and this is a speaking one. Imagine people are naked when you go and go, what kind of perverse thing is that? What is that? And you're going up there like some weirdo looking at people. Because you know what you're going to do, innit? You're going to go in the crowd, you're going to look at the fittest, buffest woman and be looking at her and you're like, okay, all right, what's going on? I think it's trash. You have to find another way of being able to center yourself. But yeah, those two are two that really jar me. Okay. Really jar me.
Even though you said that it's bad advice, but like, is there a piece of advice that you wish you listened to earlier?
No. I don't live in regret. No. Don't live in regret. Because the truth is that I have no idea if I would have really listened to it at that time.
True.
In hindsight, you can look back, well, I would have done that differently. No.
Is there one book or film that you like gift to people the most?
Yeah. So for a lot of my coaching clients, well, before I got my own book, it was a book called The Power Questions. Yeah. And I believe we can get more and understand more from each other and ourselves the more questions we ask, rather than the assumptions we make. And so The Power Questions was a book by Gerald Panis and Andrew Sobel, I think is the name of the authors. Bright yellow book, really, really good about that. But the other one I really, really liked, although it's so outdated and misogynistic, but it's quite expansive. Yeah. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big. Okay. It's a brilliant book, and I actually am tempted to write an equivalent which is not as misogynistic as that.
Why is it misogynistic?
Oh, because it was written like in 1950s America, and it's so like, women, you should be in the house, and if you're going to be a housekeeper, that kind of stuff. Okay. But there's something around being able to go, like, I think about this is, you got in your mind, you are able to go, right, I really want to be able to have this podcast, to be able to reach out to the world, and I don't know if you've deeped this yet, but this will survive longer than me.
Yeah.
Do you know how deep that is? Yeah. And then being able to go, listen, let me get my man with the lights and go and get the camera and then go and get the little board and the microphone and get the space. That's thinking big. Lots of other people will go, I'm not going to do that. Because what if it fails? What if no one sits here and says, what if I only get 12 likes on Instagram? The magic of thinking big allows you to go, regardless, you just go out there and then just let it happen. Yeah. So those two books, Power Questions and The Magic of Thinking Big, are two books that I really, really like.
Okay. And if there's one piece of advice that you'd put on a billboard, what would it say?
I deserve to be here.
Oof, I like that one. That's a sick one. Okay, a final question. No, second to final question. What's your words of encouragement to the listeners?
Believe in yourself first, and then surround yourself with people who believe in you with that same energy.
Word. And final question. Where can people find you?
So, davidmcqueen.co.uk. I big up myself. I go, if you type my name in Google, I should come in the top 3 results. If I don't, then there's a problem, right? You're using Bing. So davidmcqueen.co.uk, or the social media space that a lot of people see me when I write my content is LinkedIn, and I'm there under Mr. David McQueen.
Cool. Mr. McQueen, it's been a pleasure.
Pleasure, sir. Pleasure, King. Thank you so much.